Welcome and thank you for joining In Touch. Today we will be talking to Alfredo Reis Deus about a project that he recently completed called Battle of the Shells. It's a documentary come film come project which is 25-minute 7 films, if I'm correct.
Yes, it's a series of 7 films, each with 25 minutes, covering almost 3 hours.
And the project is called Battle of the Shells.
Yes.
Why and how did you come up with the name?
It wasn't the original name. The original name was Fish Brother, because it told the story of 6 characters enclosed in a tiny space, and it was really to show how emotions get, how can I say it, enhanced when you are in such a situation. Besides that, the name, beyond reflecting the Big Brother format, the big fish, also reflected brotherfish. Sorry. Brotherfish also reflected the similarity between their emotions and our own, and that is what is most surprising and that most people wouldn't be expecting from a fish. People would expect that from a family of meerkats, a family of lions, of elephants, but not from a family of fish.
So these documentaries are about a fish or some fish. Explain to us exactly what the project actually is.
Yes, the project, the objective of the project was to film 6 fish. In each episode, a new character enters the film, and so the first chapter starts with just one fish in a tank, and that was a huge challenge. How to make one film of 25 minutes with a single fish inside a tank. And so what happened was that first chapter ended up shaping the whole series, because I had to discover a way of storytelling that would enable the film to make any kind of sense. And I tried the traditional storytelling method used in documentaries, a serious approach, and it didn't work in any way. And when I finally tried to give a voice to the fish, everything changed. I started writing effortlessly, and I never had doubts about any line during the whole story.
And how long did it take to film this?
It was filmed intensively from morning till night, sometimes even during night, for 6 weeks. And so, but especially when you see the first chapter, it seems like years have passed. But no, the whole thing was just shot in 6 weeks. I had to edit around maybe over 1,200 hours of footage.
Sounds like a lot of time spent. How did you select which images to use?
That was hard, because it was a process of filtering. So by the end, when I first started the project, I was being very disciplined, and at the end of that day I would gather all the footage, and on the next day I would edit that footage from the previous day, and would narrow it to just 1 hour the whole day. And then by the end of the week I would have maybe 7 or 8 hours to edit, and to turn those 7 or 8 hours into 25 minutes. And so it was edit and then another, edit and then another, reducing, distilling until I got the 25 minutes. But I also gathered all the 7 episodes, which had an approximate duration of 3 hours, and reduced it to almost 1 hour to make one single feature film.
The film is being narrated by a single female fish called Pemba.
Yes, and as you can guess, a single fish alone in an aquarium, uh, what can that you must take into account that it is a smart fish. Smart fish exist, and this film is about them. And if they are smart, they can go through the same troubles a lonely person goes through. I think she even had her own existential crisis during that first chapter. At least she seemed to show that.
Obviously, after having seen this film, many people will probably say it's a very slow film, very monotonous. It takes time for action to build up. What would you say against these critics?
Nothing, I agree. I would have to agree. And but I normally work as someone commissions me a film, and I do the film according to their rules. This time I was doing a film according to my own rules, and at the same time I was doing commissioned films that were putting me under a great deal of stress. So Battle of the Shells was also a way of releasing that tension and creating this very peaceful, contemplative, meditative environment. And I was quite happy with that, and still am. So even the first episode, which was the most challenging to find a way into, which is just with one fish, is still today my favorite. Then you get another fish and another fish and another fish on the next episodes, and the relations between them build up, and then you have, I think, the most important emotions that any person goes through in their life. You have there too in that fish, in those films.
How did you come up with the idea of creating a film? Do you call it a film? Do you call it a documentary?
Initially I would call it a documentary, but then because of the way the narration proceeds, because it's narrated in the first person by one of the fish, and she doesn't just narrate the events. She also she has a very lyrical, nostalgic speech. I think it moves it a bit out of the realm of the documentary. I think it has a foot in both worlds.
And my original question was really, how did you come up with this idea? Because your previous projects, one for the Madeira Story Center, which involved seals, and
Yes.
your current project, which you're involved with the Whale Museum,
Yes.
which are all big mammals. How did you come with the idea of creating something which is almost a minute fish, which are cichlids?
Well, these are the smallest cichlids in the world, and the reason, it was not because I needed an opposition to the big whales and the big mammals. It was because I came to know these fish, and I saw that they had a story to tell, and I couldn't be at peace with myself until I told their story.
Is their story told now, or
No, because I know that if I want to start the project again, they'll tell a completely different story. It's like if you put 6 people in a house, they'll tell a story. If you do it again, they'll tell another story. And they have that kind of versatility.
do you feel that the story is actually the fish have told the story, or do you feel that you have manipulated them to tell a story that you felt you wanted to tell?
Both. I tried to manipulate them, but most of the times they completely messed up my plans. I tried to make things go in one way, but they always decided that they don't want to go in the way I planned, and decided that the story would turn a different way. And so, for instance, it never crossed my mind that I would be in some way a character of the film, but I was forced into that. What can I do? And sometimes, what can I do if I see one fish jump out of the aquarium? Do I stay there and just watch? Sometimes I see nature documentaries and see sometimes that there's an injured animal or a baby that is left by their mother, and I keep wondering, well, what about the people that are filming? Aren't they going to do anything about it? They just let nature follow their course. Well, this wasn't exactly nature, but I think if I were to film in the wild, I would intervene just the same as I did here, which in this case I picked up the fish from the floor before the dog got him and gave him another chance. And in the end, that fish became the king of the hill.
Yeah. So you actually changed the whole story in effect.
Yes, and many other times because I felt sorry for a homeless fish, and I would put some shells in one corner so that that fish could have a home. And that was my plan. But they always messed up my plans. And so I know that it seems like the story is being manipulated by me, but it's also more heavily directed by them, by the fish.
So it's a collaboration in a way. The fish,
no, it's a war.
It's a war.
It's a war between me and the fish. From the first episode.
So who won?
I think in the end we were all at peace with each other.
Well, that's
yes,
good
in
too.
the end. But even from the first episode, where I put the first fish in that tank, I was hoping that fish to do things that they normally do. And that fish did the worst thing he could do, which was nothing. I had a week of footage where the fish did absolutely nothing, and I had to do a film with that. Normally those fish dig a lot. They make their homes and they dig some pits and rearrange the shells, but she did absolutely nothing.
That must have been a challenge.
It was. I was desperate because every day I'd go and film that poor fish from morning till dusk, waiting for her to do anything at all interesting, and she didn't do anything at all.
How did you overcome this challenge?
It was the best thing that could have happened because it forced me to go into a different way. It forced me to go into look deeper into the fish's mind and see what she was feeling. And once I tried to be more attentive to that, it was so easy to write, because I looked at the images and I had no doubt what the fish wanted me to write as her words. I never had doubts. I never looked at an image and say, I wonder what narration should say here. No. In those 3 hours, there were no doubts. It was just writing like I was taking dictation. It was very clear. Once I found that the way into the film was through the fish's emotions and what was going in their head, which in fact it's not so different from what's going on in our minds, and I mean about the important emotions in life. It's the same.
What made you decide to make the film in Portuguese rather than the obvious being English to have a wider market? Why choose to make the film in Portuguese?
I already knew Sylvia. She had collaborated with me before on other projects, and I love her voice. And from the moment I had the idea that Pemba would have a voice, I had no doubts that Sylvia would have to give her a voice. And after I translated, I had the text professionally translated to English, and I even asked a few people to whom I showed the film if they would like it to see it spoken in English, and they said that no, that her interpretation is so good that she conveys the emotions and what is being said perfectly. And they, most of the people said they prefer it as it is in a strange language. That they say that in her voice they love the sound of the language in her voice. And normally Portuguese is a strange language to be heard by any foreigner, but her voice is really special.
the, the film, who are the intended audience for this film? Who did you intend that would be your audience?
Myself.
But apart from yourself,
and also the people, mostly the people who enjoy this fish, who already love this fish. But due to the fact that I chose a very very unorthodox approach to the scene, I think I left most of those people that love this fish out, because they were hoping for a more traditional documentary about this fish, and I think a real documentary about them remains to be done. And I sure would like to do it, because I'd like to go to Lake Tanganyika and shoot another documentary in the wild, where I would have a set of cameras all day around the colony and tell their story, and I would choose one fish to do the narration, just like I did this, but then every day I would go and film other species and have traditional narration, documentary narration, telling how the other species deal with the same problems that species is dealing over there. And so I would go alternating in both styles.
Because the species of fish you're talking about are cichlids.
Yes, and they all have very, very different behaviors. These ones are special in a way because they are the tiniest ones, and they adapted themselves to live in shell beds of dead snails that are in the bottom of Lake Tanganyika. And that enabled them to live really as a colony. And that is completely unheard of any other fish, to live in such an organized colony.
Well, thank you. It sounds like a very interesting project, and I hope you have a lot of success. You've also published a book called Battle of the Shells.
Yes.
Inside the Shell. Seems very interesting. How long did it take you to do this book?
Oh, a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks.
And I can tell you why. Because at the end of the project, there were so many things I wanted to say and I couldn't, because I was using Pemba's voice in the documentary, and there were things I wanted to say but that a fish could never say. So as a way to commemorate the end of the project, I also wrote sort of a photo book with some excerpts from Pemba's speech and my comments, trying to explain many things, because Pemba during the film turned against me. She questioned my intentions for doing this documentary, and why was I putting her and her companions through hell, really. And I tried to answer that, and I don't think she would be satisfied with my answers, because I don't think I have my conscience in peace about it, so I cannot really explain it so much as I wanted. But at least it resulted in a nice book.
It's very colorful, and I've just been looking, and I'm sure it will be a wonderful read.
It is, because it's more it's funny.
It's funny.
I say.
Where is the book for sale if anybody is interested?
It's for sale at Blurb, at www.blurb.com. You search there for Battle of the Shells and you'll find it.
Is that the
It's available in print and also as an ebook.
As an ebook. Once again, thank you very much for taking the time to explain this to us.
Thank you for your interest.
And I wish you all the best with the whole project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.